Welcome to Patty's Aquatics and welcome to my fish room. So today I have a little bit of a breeding project I want to try out for you guys and for myself really. It's something I haven't tried breeding yet, sort of. They're my gold White Cloud Minnows. I had an idea that I wanted to try and I thought, why not? Let's give it a try and let's document the whole thing because maybe it'll work, maybe it won't, but we'll find out through this entire video. So stick around. All right, so for my gold white clouds, I bred my original white clouds in these other tanks. If I put like a false bottom on and let the eggs be able to fall through, I had some issues because they wound up getting through that egg crate, which I can show you a little bit what I'm going to do in a couple minutes here. But my white clouds themselves, they don't want to breed in their species only tank. Oh, I'm sure they're breeding, but nothing survives, whether it be from the snails or them being predated on by the white clouds themselves. So I need to find a way to be able to get some more numbers of these guys because I really like them. Now, I have my original white clouds outside in my summer tubs and they are thriving. I see babies everywhere. I want to try to get these gold white clouds to breed. So this is what I got in mind. I'll show you. All right, so these are my gold white clouds. Now, I've only got, I think, 5 of them in here. I don't remember what the sex ratio is. I believe I have about 3 male and 2 female. I'm not really 100% sure, but I know I got 1 female, and that's all it takes. So what am I going to do? Well, I've got these little tanks down here that I tore apart. If you've seen that last video, I put them up into this community tank, up into here, and I'm going to make this a breeding tank. Now, I love it that it's got the black bottom, but I did try to breed my white clouds in here originally, and I did get them to be successful. I used egg crate, basically similar to this, and I set it at the bottom with some rocks underneath it. The problem was they could get through the egg crate holes. I had put gravel, like bigger rocks on the top of this, but they still found a way, and it got frustrating. So I was going to try to breed these guys in a 5-gallon bucket. I've tried that before numerous times and it just never worked. I don't know why, but it never did. So this is where I got the idea because I was going to try that bucket idea again, but I thought, why not? I've got a different idea. Let's use this egg crate again. And I've got this mesh that I bought from Hobby Lobby for those buckets that I would put in there so the eggs would fall through because it's real small holes. Then I thought, well, heck, I've got this piece of egg crate cut out already that fits perfectly inside of here. Let's put some of that mesh on top of there. So I cut it and I got it just sitting on top and it's sticking to it real well. But now I want to get it up off the bottom a little bit. So we're going to dig back down into some of my supplies. I've had these little tile like coasters I had from when I had angelfish to breed on. I'm going to put those on the bottom and then put that on top. So let me do that, then I'll show you where we go from there. All right, so I got that piece of egg crate covered in mesh in there now, so there is that little bit, if I can show you, of space underneath, which will be ideal for when they lay their eggs to fall through. They're not going to get at them, and they're not going to get through that egg crate now. Now, what do I use as a substance for them to breed in? Typically, I would grab like guppy grass or some Java moss or something along those lines. Well, I had a different idea there. Now, I made spawning mops for all my rice fish out in the ponds outside and up here. So I made a couple of them, but they float obviously. So I tied it to a rock. So let's throw that in there right in the middle. And then now we have a perfect little area for them guys to be able to breed into and have the eggs drop down. At least that's the idea. So next step, let's get those guys in there. All right, so I caught these guys. It was a lot less painful than I thought it would be. Sex-wise, I still can't tell the greatest. I know I got at least 1 female. I might have 2. The rest are male, but that's good numbers anyway. I want more males than I want females because there's going to be more enticing for them to breed and fight over that female. So let's get them in the tank here. Get in All right. So this will be their home for probably a few days to a week, at least 3, 4 days, I'm gonna guess. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, I think that is 4 males and 1 female. I can't tell for sure though. That female is nice and fat. I've been really feeding these guys the last like week and a half. Lots of baby brine shrimp, frozen brine shrimp, stuff like that. High protein foods to really fatten them up because I want a big load of eggs here. And like I said, I believe that is, I think I'm right, that's 1 female and 4 males. So hopefully that ratio isn't too big. When I did try to breed them in the past, I either put just a pair or I would put two males to 1 female. But we will document this whole thing over time here and see what happens. Like I said, we'll give it a few days, then we'll come back when I'm ready to pull these guys out, unless something happens in between. So it's been 3 days since I put those white clouds in this tank. I think it's time we take them out. So let's turn this camera around and see what's going on. All right, so as you can see, they are doing good. The female there is a lot skinnier than she was when I first put her in. And yes, it is 1 female and 4 males. So they were pretty much going after her pretty hard. I did see some breeding activity from them. So we'll see here. So first step here is let's get these guys out, put them back in their original tank, and then I'll pull this stuff out of here, and then let's take a closer look at the bottom with that black bottom of this tank. Let's see if we can see any potential eggs. So I will attempt to do this with filming with one hand to catch these fish. We'll see if I'll be successful. I don't want to stress them out too much. Oh, look at that. I got all 5 of them in one scoop. Now let's put them back in their normal tank here. All right. Now, this stuff. Let me get the spawning mop out and this out, and then let's take a look. All right, so I took spawning mop in my little grate here with the mesh out of there, and this is what I got. I did feed them a little bit of frozen brine shrimp the last few days, not a lot because I really didn't want it to litter the water. As you can see, there's a few of them on the bottom of the tank here. Now, I don't see any like standout visible eggs, but there are a few of them in this area. I can't zoom in to see it for the life of me. I've been trying. Like in this area, there are about 5 or 6 that look like they could be potential eggs, and back there a little bit too. So really, it's just going to be a wait and see type of thing. I will put the air back in here. Do that right now as we're speaking, just to keep some air going. And with that, I guess we're just going to sit back and see what happens over the next couple of days. And if I have any fry pop up or not, then we'll see if this was a success or it's one of those things where you just got to keep trying. So stay tuned. Well, I'm back. It's been about 10 days since I put those fish initially in that tank for this little breeding operation. And it's been about a week since I removed the fish and removed that spawning mop and that false bottom. So let's turn this camera around quickly and let me show you what I got going on in there. And let's see if it was successful or not. Well, as we look at the tank real quick, you can see there are lots of fry. So it was a success. I would say there's probably a good 50 of them in here. Let me tell you kind of how it broke down over the days and really how I plan on maintaining it from here to get as much survival, the biggest survival rate out of these guys as I can. All right, so what's happening here? Remember, I put those fish in there, like I said, about 10 days ago in that tank for this little breeding setup. 3 days later, I took them out, so that tank was sitting there now for a week. Since then, I took that all out. It was about 4 days in of having removed those fish, and I didn't see anything. I was really starting to think it wasn't going to work. It was another failure. If you don't know, I've really been trying to breed these white clouds in my fish room, doing different things with really minimal success. I'd get a few here or there, but I really never got like a big group of fish. I always heard that white clouds were one of the easiest fish to breed, but I really wasn't finding that from my own personal experiences. So I was starting to get down on myself a little bit, thinking, well, here we go again. It's not going to work. But this is a perfect lesson to myself, really, that you need to keep diligent and keep tweaking what you're doing and trying different things, and you will be successful eventually. You just need to find that recipe of things that are going to make it perfect for these fish to breed and be successful, and that's what I did here. So, okay, what happened? Like I said, 4 days in, I'm not seeing anything. That's when that night I happened to be down here feeding my fish, and I looked in the tank and I saw one or two little ones poking around and jumping around within the tank. So I'm like, okay, I feel a little better. I found one or two, so it is somewhat successful. At least I got something out of it. And I went to work the next day and I came home like I do every day and I feed my fry in the fish room here. And I go down and I look in the tank and lo and behold, I see about 5 of them in the corner. I'm like, okay, that's some better numbers. But then I actually looked down, the light above it was kind of putting a glare on the top of the water. And as I looked better, I seen there was just a swarm of them. So like I said, there's probably a good 50 of them in there. So this was just a huge success so far. So now really the question is, what am I going to do to try to help these guys have the highest survival rate? And that's where these other things are going to come into hand. One, what am I going to feed them? So my biggest staple of food for fry, especially these smaller ones that can't eat some of the bigger foods, is the North Fin fry food. I feed them that. That's a staple for all my fry food. But is something else I'm doing with this one now. What I did was I took a filter out of a tank and I squeezed it into some water, tank water, into a jar. So I got this jar of mucky goodness basically from a filter that's chock full of biological activity, and guess what? That's microscopic food for those fish to eat. So I'm going to use that probably like 3 times a day along with that Northfin fish fry food to feed these guys like I do all my other fry until they get a little bigger. Then I can wean away from that filter juice basically and just go with the fry food. So another big possibility with that filter juice food that I'm using is, well, if you think about it, people always tell you to squeeze filters into a new tank to help kind of cycle it faster. Well, that could be helping a little bit with this tank as well. But another thing I did do, because I don't have plants in there, as you can see, there's a little bit of yucky duckweed, which I don't like, but this is that love and hate relationship I have with this plant. It does help really pull nutrients out of that water, so that helps. But I also did pull some algae out from another tank for 2 reasons. One, again, there's going to be some microscopic life within that algae for these fish to feed on throughout the day. And two, this is another plant life form that's going to also help pull nutrients out of the water column. I'm obviously, because there is no substrate and no actual filter, I'm going to have to be diligent on my water changes within this tank because I don't want it to crash and have death because of that. So I will do water changes probably at least once a week, maybe a little more frequently depending. I just have to monitor it. Well, obviously this was a huge success and I'm very happy with the outcome, and it really has got my juices going in my head here of thinking, what else can I breed in this type of setup? Obviously my other white clouds, and what about CPDs? What about rainbow shiners? That's another thought. Maybe not that small of a tank, something a little bigger on that level, but I think that would be very successful with that as well. I don't know. That's what I love about this hobby, is to be able to really think outside that box and really think of ways to make myself use my brain and really just have fun with it all. You know, that's what I love most about this hobby and about everything with keeping fish and breeding them, is trying to find different ways to be successful with it and pass that information along to you guys. And in turn, I take that information from stuff I see from you guys as well. That's why this is such a great community, and I love it dearly. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure you hit that subscribe button and make sure you do hit that notification bell, because I will show the progress of these guys in the coming months, of them hopefully getting bigger and coloring up and showing you where I'm going to put them, because I have a couple of 10-gallon tanks I'm going to be planting pretty soon, and I think I found inhabitants for one of them. Anyways, from the surface to the substrate, always keep exploring, keep those hands wet, and keep your fish fed. Hope to see you again next time here at Patty's Aquatics.